The champagne glass in Daniel's hand caught the firelight as he leaned back in the leather chair, that practiced smile never quite reaching his eyes. "Robert, I need you to wire $500,000 to this account by midnight tonight, or I'll make sure Sarah's medical license is permanently revoked." We were in the private cabin at the Snowmass Resort in Aspen, just the two of us. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see my daughter Sarah laughing with her cousins on the deck, her engagement ring catching the Colorado sunset. She had no idea that the man she planned to marry in 3 months was sitting across from me, making threats that could destroy everything she'd worked for. I'd built Hayes Development from nothing over 35 years, started framing houses when I was 22, and now we're one of the largest commercial developers in the Southwest. I've negotiated with mob-connected contractors, dealt with corrupt city officials, survived the 2008 crash, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared me for the cold calculation in this man's eyes as he threatened my only child. "That's quite a specific number," I said, keeping my voice level. "And an interesting threat. Want to explain what you're talking about?" Daniel set down his glass and pulled out his phone. "I have access to Sarah's hospital records, patient files, medication logs, privileged information, one anonymous tip to the state medical board about HIPAA violations, maybe some altered screenshots showing she accessed patient data for personal use." He shrugged. "Investigations take months. Even if she's eventually cleared, the damage to her reputation would be catastrophic. Hospitals don't like controversy. She'd never work in pediatrics again. My daughter had wanted to be a doctor since she was 8 years old. Volunteered at free clinics through college, graduated top of her class from Stanford Medical School, completed her residency at Children's Hospital, Colorado. She worked 70-hour weeks because she genuinely loved helping sick kids. The idea of someone threatening that. "How did you even meet my daughter?" I asked, buying time to think. "Hospital charity gala, 6 months ago." His smile widened. "I told her I was raising Series B funding for a healthcare AI startup. We hit it off. She's brilliant, really, but so focused on medicine that she doesn't pay attention to much else. Made things easy. 6 months. They'd been dating 6 months, engaged for only 2 weeks. When Sarah had called me, breathless with excitement about the proposal, I'd had reservations. Something about Daniel Brooks had felt off from the moment I met him at Thanksgiving. The expensive clothes that didn't quite fit right. The way he'd asked detailed questions about my business but was vague about his own. How he always ordered the most expensive wine but never picked up a check. "You're very confident," I observed. "But extortion is a serious crime, Daniel. You're essentially admitting you're planning to blackmail me." He laughed. "Am I? All I'm doing is having a private conversation with my future father-in-law about a business investment. You're choosing to interpret it as something else. Besides, who's going to believe you? Sarah loves me. She'd never accept that I'd do something like this. And without proof," he spread his hands. "What makes you think I have that kind of liquid capital available on Christmas Eve? Please." He pulled up something on his phone and turned it toward me. It was a screenshot from what looked like a business magazine article. "Hayes Development sold the Riverside Plaza project for $18 million last month. Don't insult my intelligence, Robert. You've got access to more than enough money." I'd underestimated him. This wasn't some opportunistic scam. He'd done research, knew my business deals, understood my financial position, had leverage over what I cared about most, and he was smart enough to make the threat in private, with no witnesses. "I need to think about this," I said. "You have until midnight. After that, I make some phone calls." He stood up, straightening his designer sweater. "Oh, and Robert, don't try to warn Sarah. I have other insurance in place. Let's just say there are some compromising photos from our time together that she wouldn't want made public. This stays between us, or things get very messy for everyone." He walked out onto the deck, immediately transforming back into the charming, attentive fiancé. I watched him put his arm around Sarah, kiss her cheek, make her laugh. She looked so happy, so in love, so completely unaware that she was being used. I pulled out my phone and stepped into the bedroom. The first call I made was to Marcus Webb, a private investigator I'd used for business due diligence. We'd worked together for 15 years. If anyone could dig up information quickly, it was Marcus. Marcus, I need a deep background check, and I need it yesterday. It's Christmas Eve, Robert. I know. I'll pay triple your rate. His name is Daniel Brooks. Says he's CEO of a healthcare tech startup called Medicore AI. Currently in Aspen with me. I need everything. Financials, employment history, criminal record, social media, the works. And Marcus, this is about Sarah. There was a pause. Marcus had watched Sarah grow up. He'd handled security for her college graduation when we'd gotten threats from a disgruntled former employee. I'll have something in 4 hours. The second call was to my lawyer, Patricia Chen. She'd been my attorney for 20 years and was one of the sharpest legal minds I knew. Patricia, hypothetically, if someone threatened to fabricate evidence to destroy a medical professional's license in exchange for money, what would that be legally? Extortion, blackmail, possibly computer fraud, if he's claiming to have unauthorized access to medical records. Robert, what's going on? I explained the situation. When I finished, there was silence. Don't pay him, she said finally. The moment you do, you're admitting guilt to something, and he'll just come back for more. These people always do. And if he really has access to Sarah's hospital systems, that's a felony. We need to involve authorities. He threatened to release private photos of Sarah if I tell her or go to police. Classic manipulation. Robert, listen to me. The FBI has a specialized unit for extortion cases. Let me make some calls. We need to handle this right. I spent the next 3 hours playing the role of concerned father at the family dinner. Sarah's aunts and uncles had flown in from Texas. Her cousins were arguing about ski runs for tomorrow. Daniel was perfectly charming, telling stories about his supposed startup, discussing the wedding plans. He caught my eye once across the table and smiled. A reminder, midnight. My phone buzzed at 9 p.m. Marcus. The report he sent made my blood run cold. Daniel Brooks, real name Daniel Brockman, had 3 active arrest warrants in California, Nevada, and Oregon for fraud and identity theft. He'd scammed at least 6 women in the past 4 years, all of them successful professionals. A lawyer in Sacramento had lost $300,000. A dentist in Portland had been blackmailed into paying $180,000 to prevent him from filing a fake sexual harassment lawsuit. A software engineer in Las Vegas had emptied her retirement account, $420,000, after he'd threatened to plant child pornography on her work computer. The pattern was identical every time. He'd target accomplished women through professional events or dating apps, create a whirlwind romance, get engaged quickly, then make increasingly aggressive financial demands backed by sophisticated threats. By the time his victims realized what was happening, they were too embarrassed or scared to report it. He'd move to a new state, adopt a slightly different identity, and start over. Medicore AI didn't exist. The business address he'd given Sarah was a UPS store. His LinkedIn profile was fake, using stock photos and invented credentials. Even his apartment in Denver was a short-term rental he'd paid for with a stolen credit card. The most disturbing part? There were currently 4 other women he was simultaneously involved with. 3 were engaged to him. He was running the same scam on multiple targets, using different names and backgrounds with each one. I forwarded everything to Patricia. Her response came back immediately. FBI Denver field office is sending 2 agents to the resort. They'll arrive by 11 p.m. Do not confront him. Do not let him know we're on to him. This is now a federal case. At 10:30, I told the family I was going for a walk to enjoy the night air. I met the FBI agents in the resort's business center. Agent Sarah Winters and Agent Michael Torres, both from the Economic Crimes Unit. Mr. Hayes, we've been tracking Daniel Brockman for 8 months, Agent Winters said. He's suspected in at least 15 cases across 8 states, but victims rarely press charges. Most pay and never report it. The few who do come forward are too scared to testify. What do you need from me? We need him on record making the extortion demand. We need proof of the threat. Can you get him to repeat what he said to you? I pulled out my phone. I recorded our conversation this afternoon. Agent Torres's eyes widened. Colorado is a one-party consent state for recordings. This is admissible. Can we hear it? I played the recording. Both agents listened intently. This is exactly what we need, Agent Winters said. But we want more. We want to catch him in the act. Would you be willing to facilitate a controlled operation? What does that involve? You pretend to comply with his demand. We set up a meeting to transfer the money. We record everything. When he confirms the extortion and attempts to collect, we arrest him. With your testimony, the recording, and the pattern of similar cases we've documented, we can build a prosecution that sticks. I looked at my watch. 10:45 p.m. Tell me what to do. They moved fast. Agent Torres set up recording equipment in the cabin study. Agent Winters coordinated with resort security to position additional agents nearby. They created a fake wire transfer confirmation that looked legitimate enough to fool a casual inspection. At 11:30, I texted Daniel. We need to talk. Private. Study in 15 minutes. He arrived at 11:47, right on time. Through the study's window, I could see Sarah still chatting with her cousins by the outdoor fire pit. She looked so peaceful, so unaware. Cutting it close, Robert, Daniel said, closing the door behind him. I need to understand something first. Why Sarah? There are plenty of wealthy women you could target. Why my daughter? He sat down, perfectly relaxed. Honestly, the challenge. Doctors are usually smarter, more cautious. Breaking through that skepticism was interesting. Plus, her connection to you was a bonus. The real estate developer father-in-law opened up networking opportunities. You were planning to scam my business contacts too? Eventually. But first things first, do you have the transfer confirmation? I pulled up the fake screenshot on my phone. 500,000 to the account number you specified. But it won't process until I enter the authentication code. Before I do that, I need guarantees. Guarantees? He laughed. Robert, you're not in a position to negotiate. I need to know this ends here. That you won't come back asking for more. That Sarah's career is safe. That those photos are deleted. Sure, why not? I'll even sign something if it makes you feel better. Once I have the money, I'm gone. Sarah will be heartbroken, yeah, but she'll move on. You'll play the supportive father, help her heal. Everyone lives happily ever after. You've done this before. It wasn't a question. He shrugged. A few times. It's remarkably easy, actually. Successful women have worked so hard to build their careers. They're terrified of anything that might destroy what they've created. They'll pay almost anything to protect it, and they rarely report it because they're embarrassed they fell for someone like me. Someone like you, I repeated. A con artist. A parasite. His smile faded. Careful, Robert. You're still on the hook here. Enter the code. I want to know something else first. Do you even care about Sarah at all? Feel anything for her? Does it matter? It matters to me. He sighed. Look, Sarah's nice enough. Smart, pretty, good heart. Under different circumstances, maybe things could have been real. But this is business. I target women who have something I want. I make them fall in love with me. I extract maximum value. I move on. It's not personal, except it is personal, I said quietly. To the women whose lives you've destroyed. To their families. To my daughter, who trusted you. Your daughter will be fine. She'll cry for a few weeks, then meet some nice doctor and forget I ever existed. Now stop stalling. Enter. The code. I picked up my phone. Okay. But I want you to understand something, Daniel. Or should I call you Daniel Brockman? That's your real name, isn't it? For the first time, his composure cracked. Just slightly. I know about the warrants in California, Nevada, and Oregon, I continued. I know about the 6 other women you scammed. I know about the lawyer in Sacramento, the dentist in Portland, the software engineer in Las Vegas. I know that Medicore AI doesn't exist and your apartment is rented with a stolen credit card. He stood up abruptly. You're bluffing. I'm really not. I had you investigated the moment you walked out of this room this afternoon. You see, Daniel, I've been in business for 35 years. I've learned that when something feels wrong, it usually is. And you felt wrong from the very first time I met you. His hand moved toward his pocket. I wondered if he had a weapon. But before I could react, the study door opened. Agent Winters and Agent Torres stepped inside, badges visible. Daniel Brockman, FBI. You're under arrest for extortion, wire fraud, and identity theft. I've seen a lot of reactions in business negotiations. Anger, denial, panic. But I'd never seen someone's entire persona collapse so completely. The confident, charming entrepreneur vanished, replaced by something desperate and cornered. "This is entrapment," he said. "You set me up." "Actually," Agent Torres said, pulling out handcuffs, "entrapment requires law enforcement to induce someone to commit a crime they weren't already predisposed to commit. You made the threat on your own. You demanded the money on your own. Mr. Hayes simply gave you the opportunity to incriminate yourself. Turn around, please." "Sarah," Daniel shouted. "Sarah, your father is protecting his daughter from a con artist," Agent Winters finished. "We've already contacted the 4 other women you're currently engaged to. 3 of them are pressing charges. Combined with the existing warrants and Mr. Hayes's testimony, you're looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison." They let him out through the side entrance. Resort security had cordoned off the area to keep family members away. I'd asked them to give me time to tell Sarah myself, before the situation became public. I found her still by the fire, now alone. Her cousins had gone to bed. "Hey, Dad," she said, smiling. "Where's Daniel? He was supposed to meet me here 10 minutes ago." "Sweetheart, we need to talk. Let's go inside. I've had difficult conversations in my life. Telling my wife she had cancer, laying off 50 employees during the recession, but telling my daughter that the man she loved, the man she planned to marry, was a predator who'd targeted her specifically to extort money from me. That might have been the hardest. She didn't believe me at first, got angry, accused me of sabotaging her relationship. Then I showed her the evidence, the arrest warrants, the other victims, the recording of Daniel explaining his methodology. I watched her heart break in real time. She cried for hours that night. I held her the way I had when she was little and had nightmares. Except this nightmare was real, and I couldn't make it go away with a glass of water and a bedtime story. "How did I not see it?" she kept asking. "I'm supposed to be smart. How did I fall for this?" "Because he's a professional, honey. He's been doing this for years. He knows exactly how to manipulate people, what to say, how to act. This isn't your fault." I told him everything about my work, about my patients. He had access to my laptop, my files. She looked at me with panic. "Dad, if he really has patient information, the FBI is handling it. They've already contacted the hospital's security team. They'll do a complete audit of your access logs and make sure nothing was compromised. And if something was, they'll handle it properly, through official channels. You did nothing wrong." The next morning, Agent Winters came to update us. Daniel. They were still calling him that, though apparently his real name was David Bronson, and he'd used at least 8 other aliases, was in federal custody. He'd been charged with 19 counts across multiple jurisdictions. More victims were coming forward now that news of his arrest had spread. The women he scammed in California, Nevada, and Oregon are all willing to testify now, Agent Winters said. Your case, Mr. Hayes, plus your daughter's testimony about his access to hospital systems, gives us the foundation for a strong prosecution. He'll be facing substantial prison time. Sarah asked the question I'd been wondering about too. What about the photos he claimed to have? We searched his devices. There are no compromising photos of you, Sarah. That was just another threat, designed to keep you silent and compliant. It's a common tactic among these types of criminals. After the agent left, Sarah sat quietly for a long time. I keep thinking about all the decisions I made, she said. How fast we moved. Getting engaged after 6 months. I justified it because he seemed perfect, you know? He understood my work schedule, never complained about the long hours. He was interested in medicine, asked intelligent questions. He made me feel like I could have both a career and a relationship. You can have both those things, honey. Just not with someone whose relationship was a business transaction. She looked at her engagement ring, then slowly took it off. The FBI will want this as evidence, won't they? It's probably stolen too. It was. We found out later he'd bought it with a credit card in another victim's name. The next few months were difficult. Sarah threw herself into work, but I could see her struggling. She'd lost weight, wasn't sleeping well, started questioning her judgment in other areas of her life. I convinced her to talk to a therapist who specialized in helping victims of financial crimes and romantic fraud. Slowly, painfully, she began to heal. She learned about the psychology of con artists, how they target empathetic, successful people, specifically because those traits make them easier to manipulate. They look for people with strong careers but less experience in relationships, her therapist explained to me during a family session. People who are used to trusting their professional judgment but maybe haven't dated much because they were focused on building their careers. Sarah's intelligence and success didn't make her vulnerable. They made her a target. The trial happened 8 months later. I testified about the extortion attempt. Sarah testified about the relationship, how he'd gained her trust, what he'd told her about his business and background. 5 other victims testified too. The pattern was identical in every case. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 18 years in federal prison. As they led him away, he looked at me. Not Sarah, not the other victims. Me. Like somehow this was my fault for not paying up, for not playing along. That was 2 years ago. Sarah's doing better now. She's back to her old self, mostly. Dating again, cautiously. She's more careful now. Asks more questions, takes things slower. But she hasn't let what happened destroy her ability to trust. That's the thing about my daughter. She's always been resilient. Last month, she called me with news. She's been asked to speak at a medical conference about recognizing the signs of predatory behavior in relationships. The FBI's Economic Crimes Unit wants to use her story as part of their victim outreach program. I was thinking, she said, for so long, I felt stupid for falling for Daniel. But maybe if I talk about it publicly, I can help other people avoid the same thing. Turn something terrible into something useful. That's when I knew she'd really healed. Yesterday was Christmas Eve, exactly 2 years since that night in Aspen. We're back at the same resort, same cabin. This time it's just the 2 of us. A quiet father-daughter trip. We were sitting by the fireplace, and Sarah asked me something she'd never asked before. Dad, when did you first suspect something was wrong with Daniel? I thought about it. Honestly, the first time I met him, something about the way he smiled. It was perfect, you know? Too perfect. Like he'd practiced it. In business, I've learned that people who seem too good to be true usually are. But I couldn't tell you that, because you were so happy, and I had no proof. Just a feeling. But you trusted that feeling enough to have him investigated. I trusted my instinct that my daughter deserved better than someone who made me uncomfortable. Even if I'd been wrong, even if he'd been exactly who he claimed to be, the worst that would have happened is I wasted some money on a background check. But if I was right and did nothing, I trailed off. She put her hand on mine. You saved my career, probably my life. He could have destroyed everything I've worked for. You would have survived. You're stronger than you think. Maybe, but I'm glad I didn't have to find out. She paused. I've been seeing someone. His name is Andrew. He's a teacher. We met at a mutual friend's dinner party 3 months ago. 3 months and you're just telling me now? She smiled. I wanted to be sure. We're taking it slow. Really slow. He thinks it's because I'm busy with work, which is partly true. But also, I needed time to trust my judgment again. To trust myself. What's he like? Funny, kind, patient. His salary is about $45,000 a year, and he was genuinely embarrassed when I saw his beat-up Honda Civic for the first time. He's never asked me about money. Never been weird about the fact that I out-earn him significantly. When I work late, he brings me dinner and leaves without making me feel guilty about it. Sounds promising. It is. But Dad, I need you to do me a favor. Anything. I need you to meet him. And I need you to trust your gut again, because my judgment is better now. But I also know I can be blind to things. You saw through Daniel when I couldn't. So I need you to tell me, honestly, what you think of Andrew. I met Andrew Chen 2 weeks later. Fifth grade teacher, coaches soccer, volunteers with a literacy program on weekends, lives in a modest apartment in Aurora, drives that beat-up Civic Sarah mentioned, split the dinner check without making it awkward. He talked about his students with genuine affection, asked thoughtful questions about my work but didn't probe about finances. When Sarah mentioned she had to leave early for a hospital emergency, he just smiled and said he'd get the car. No complaint, no guilt trip. After Sarah left, Andrew asked if he could talk to me for a minute. I know Sarah had a bad experience before, he said carefully. She hasn't given me details, but I can tell she's cautious. And I want you to know that I get it. I'm willing to go at whatever pace she needs. I'm not in a hurry. That's good to hear. I also want you to know that I looked you up online. I know you're wealthy. I know your company is successful. And I need you to understand that's not why I'm interested in Sarah. I grew up in a family that struggled financially, and I've never been comfortable around money. My mom cleaned houses. My dad was a janitor. They taught me that a person's worth has nothing to do with their bank account. He looked me straight in the eye. I like Sarah because she's passionate about helping kids, because she laughs at terrible puns, because she cares about people, not because of who her father is, or what kind of car she drives, or what her salary is. I wanted you to know that. In case you were wondering, I believed him. And that genuine awkwardness about money, that discomfort with wealth, it was the opposite of Daniel's smooth confidence. Andrew wasn't trying to impress me. If anything, he was trying to make sure I didn't think less of him. Andrew, I said, I appreciate you being direct. And for what it's worth, I think my daughter deserves someone who values her for who she is. Sounds like you might be that person. Later, Sarah called me. What did you think? I think he's nervous about meeting your father, which is normal. I think he genuinely cares about you, which is important. And I think he has absolutely no idea how to pretend to be something he's not, which is actually the best quality anyone could have. I could hear the smile in her voice. So you like him? I like that he makes you happy. I like that you feel comfortable enough with him to introduce us. And I like that my gut isn't screaming that something's wrong. That's good enough for me, Dad. The thing about that night in Aspen, the thing I think about sometimes when I can't sleep, is how close we came to disaster. If I hadn't trusted my instincts, if I'd dismissed my concerns as just a protective father being overprotective, if I'd paid Daniel off to keep the peace, if I'd chosen comfort over truth, Sarah would have married him. He would have isolated her, manipulated her, probably destroyed her career anyway, once he'd extracted everything of value. And she would have been alone in that nightmare, convinced it was somehow her fault. Instead, I made one phone call to a private investigator. Cost me $3,500 for that rush background check. Best money I ever spent. These days, when Sarah introduces me to Andrew as her boyfriend, and yes, they're still together, still taking it slow, and yes, I think he might actually be the real thing. I'm reminded of something my own father told me when I was starting my business. Trust, but verify, he'd said. Hope for the best in people, but protect yourself and the ones you love. I trusted Sarah's judgment, but I verified who Daniel really was. And that verification saved my daughter's